Yeah, there we go. And share going. Here we go. So good morning, and thank you so much for coming to Capturing Memories, a guide to preserving and protecting your family photos. I'll ask if you could all mute till the end. Um, and with that, we'll get underway. So the agenda today, there'll be a little bit of an introduction. Then we'll go through identifying types of old family photos, then preserving and protecting those family photos. And then, as always, there'll be time for questions, answers, and comments at the end. So this presentation is actually a kickoff to the American Library Association's Preservation Week. And the theme for this year is Preserving Identities. So their annual Preservation Week inspires action to preserve personal, family, and community collections in addition to library, museum, and archive collections. It also raises awareness of the role of libraries and other cultural institutions that they play in providing ongoing preservation, education, and information. This year's theme is particularly suited to discussing steps you can take to preserve your family photos for future generations. So why do we preserve family photos? There's, of course, historical documentation. There's understanding family connections. There's preserving cultural heritage. There's the emotional connection. Of course, with us, there's genealogical research. There's preserving the stories and passing down memories. And the photos you see here from the upper left, that is a picture of my mom and dad right after they'd gotten engaged, and they're visiting one of the camps. The next one, going clockwise, that you see the bicentennial flag there, that's me with my grandfather in front of their house. Then the next one, the four women, you may be familiar with this from Tracing the Hidden Half, but this is actually the littlest one is by mom's mother, my grandmother, being held by her mother. The woman on the right-hand side is then her mother, which would make her my great-great-grandmother. And the one that's seated is my great-great-great-grandmother, who was born in Ireland. And then this last photo here, that's my mom's parents, my grandfather and grandmother, when they got engaged back in 1933. So you can see some of the different types of pictures we've got there. So identifying types of old family photos. This is a little bit of a timeline. Photos first started in 1839, sorry, with daguerreotypes. Then we went to salted paper prints. Then in 1851, there were glass plate negatives. 1850, again in 1851, collodion wet plate glass negatives, which were used water, a process with water. 1880, they introduced gelatin dry plate glass negatives. Then in 1889, nitrate negatives were introduced by Kodak. This ceased production in 1951, and dates of production outside of the US vary. Then in 1850, we have what are called albumin prints. 1885, gelatin and collodion printed out photographic prints. Then in 1880, we had black and white gelatin developed out photographic prints. 1934, there are acetate negatives introduced for sheet film. 1935, chromogenic color film and transparencies are introduced by Kodak. Kodachrome was the first process. In 1948, sorry, the instant black and white process introduced by Polaroid. It was sepia tones first, then black and white by 1950. 1960, we have polyester film introduced. 1963, instant color print process introduced by Polaroid. Polacolor was the first process, and then there are other processes introduced in the early 70s. 1985 to present, there's electrostatic, inkjet, and dye sublimation prints, which become increasing used for printing photographic images. So we'll go through a few of the common types you might possibly encounter with your family photo archive. So the first ones are the daguerreotypes, which were popular from 1839 to 1860. They were invented by Louis Daguerre in France in 1839 and became popular worldwide, mainly because Daguerre neglected to copyright his invention. The image appears on a highly burnished, thin copper plate coated with silver. The silver produces a mirroring effect and will switch from positive to negative depending on the angle. Their surface is very easily scratched and susceptible to tarnishing, so do not clean or wipe the plate and leave it in its case. Next, we have what's known as the salted paper print. This was popular from 1840 to 1865. This was developed by a British scientist, William Henry Fox Talbot, and salted paper prints, also known as salt prints, didn't require an additional chemical process to develop. The process was to soak plain writing paper first in a weak solution of ordinary table salt and then in a strong silver nitrate solution. The resulting print had a matte finish and was reddish brown to purple in color. These are also sometimes mistaken for the later albumin print. Salt prints are highly susceptible to deterioration from airborne pollutants, high humidity, and light exposure. Ambrotypes were invented by James Ambrose Cutting in 1854. Ambrotypes gained in popularity as they were cheaper to produce than daguerreotypes. Ambrotypes are like daguerreotypes, but made on glass plates instead of metal. They are backed with a dark opaque material such as black lacquer or velvet. The dark areas of the image appear so because the backing material shows through clear areas in the glass. Highlights of the image are comprised of silver particle deposits and will appear milky white. They may display what appears to be flaking of the image, but it's actually deterioration of the backing material, usually due to high humidity and pollution. Next up, we have tintypes, or also known as ferrotypes. These were invented by Frederick Scott Archer in 1851, and tintype images are typically sharper and crisper than daguerreotypes and were much more easily reproduced. These images are not on actual tin, but rather a thin sheet of lacquered iron. They were even cheaper to produce than ambrotypes and proved quite popular among the general public as a result, and were sometimes called the poor man's daguerreotype. They are commonly cracked from the varnish overcoat. Some images may get bent, which exposes the iron plate underneath, and they will commonly rust in these areas. Cleaning of tintypes should involve no more than a light dusting with a soft cloth or brush. Now we come to albumin prints. The process was first created by Louis Blanchard Evrard in 1850. The coating is created from beating egg whites to a froth, then letting it settle back into a liquid and applied to the paper. Although sometimes confused for salted paper prints, albumin prints have a much glossier finish and were sometimes hand-colored, as you can see in this example. Deterioration of albumin prints occurs when the prints are subjected to air and moisture. This includes a general fading, as well as yellowing of the white parts of the print, complete loss of the lighter tones, such as detail in light clothing and faces, and the image and colors can sometimes fade from purple to a yellowish brown. Now, this is a version of an albumin print. These are called cabinet cards, which were popular from 1863 to 1910. They were first introduced in 1863 by Windsor and Bridge in London. They were a large format photographic print that was mounted on cardstock. The cabinet card got its name mainly from its suitability for display in parlors, especially in cabinets, and was a popular medium for family portraits. Cabinet cards are rarely found dating after 1906, although cabinet cards continued to be produced into the early 1920s. They were typically an albumin print and as such, care should be taken not to expose the original to high humidity or light. Another version of an albumin print was the carte de visite, or visiting card, and this was popular 1854 to 1880. So the carte de visite, or also abbreviated CDV, was a form of small photograph which was patented in Paris by photographer André Adolphe Eugène Disdéry in 1854. The carte de visite format was slow to gain widespread use until 1859, when Disdéry published Emperor Napoleon III's photos in this format. And that's the photo we have here on the right. This made the format an overnight success. Like cabinet cards, they are typically an albumin print. However, they are much smaller, usually a 2-inch by 3.5-inch print on a cardstock backing of 2.5 inches by 4 inches. So like other albumin prints, care should be taken not to expose the original to high humidity or light. Next up, we have gelatin silver prints, and this was popular 1880 and is still used today. These are a common type of black and white photographic print made using silver salt suspended in a gelatin emulsion. Developed in the late 19th century, gelatin silver prints quickly became the standard for black and white photography due to their ease of production and excellent image quality. Gelatin silver prints played a pivotal role in making photography more accessible to amateur photographers and to the general public. When properly processed and stored, gelatin silver prints are highly stable and can last for many years without significant deterioration. Now, color photography. There are examples in earlier times of color photography, but it became, in 1935, Eastman Kodak introduced the Kodachrome film on April 15th, and this was for 16mm motion pictures. Not long after that, they began marketing film for still cameras and 8mm movie cameras. The color renderings of Kodachrome films was unique in color photography for several decades. Even after the introduction of other successful professional color films, such as Fuji Velvia, some professionals continued to prefer Kodachrome and maintain that it still has certain advantages over digital. When stored in darkness, Kodachrome's long-term stability under suitable conditions is superior to other types of color film. So now dating a photo, you should look at the fashion. So research the typical fashion for certain decades or time periods, but do pay attention to the locations and socioeconomic situations. A city-dwelling socialite will probably dress more fashionably than a farmer's daughter who has 6 older sisters, for example. And don't forget, as the examples you see here, the outfit could just be a costume. The one in the middle, that's my dad and me, and we went to a speakeasy cabaret. And the other one, I played Marmee in Little Women. So they may look like old dress, but they're not. So one of the resources you can use, and it's a bit of a sophisticated resource, but they do have a lot of information that's usable for the average person like you and me. The Image Permanence Institute at RIT was started in the mid-1980s when members of the Society of Photographic Scientists and Engineers discussed the need for an independent research laboratory that could objectively investigate the permanence and preservation needs of imaging technologies from various manufacturers. Early advocates included the Rochester-based Eastman Kodak Company. So the Institute's Graphics Atlas is a sophisticated resource that presents a unique object-based approach for the identification and characterization of prints and photographs. The Atlas's visual guides are a key resource in helping determine what type of photo you have, which will make it easier to figure out the best way of preserving that photo. This is the main page of their graphics atlas, and they have on the top, you can see there's different featured objects. That's a variety of types of photographs. They do have a guided tour. On the lower left here, you can see start with the guided tour, and it will take you through different types of prints in a study. you can go through, and the next one you can go through and compare. And it will give you a way to do a side-by-side comparison to see the differences. But if you have a photograph in front of you and you're not sure what type it is, there's the identification guide, which is the one that I used a lot when I did a photographic archives course in library school. And then on the far right, they do have the picture of the month, which is pretty fun to see. So the identification guide. This you can browse through the different types of processes, but I figured I'd show you what I use, which is the search feature. You can start with object in terms of the object you want to identify. Start with the primary source, was whether it's tin, glass, paper, or if it's unknown, you can leave it unknown. Image color tones, and they have a visual guide for color. That will help narrow down the results even more. Image deterioration, and they have another visual guide. Oftentimes we'll have image fading, and that would narrow things down even more. Additional filters to narrow it down. And then surface sheen is the last one I typically use. And it goes through just the different types, and we'll see that. I don't use the magnification view as much anymore. I did with the photographic archives class, because we actually had to use little microscopes to view some of our photos. But that's a little more advanced, and you don't need to worry about that. So the image color tone guide, the categories, they have black and white, purple and red, and you see the purples aren't like a true vibrant violet purple they're talking about. It's just the tones of the image. Then there's brown, yellow, other color, which you see is a variety of colors. Then there's full color, and the hand colored ones, which definitely, especially prior to 1935, you would see hand colored ones. And these are all available as a downloadable PDF that can be printed for use offline. The next one we have is the image deterioration guide. The categories are color shifting. So especially, I think the center photo in color shifting, I've seen that a lot with some of the photos from my childhood, that the colors are starting to shift. We do get image yellowing, and that's definitely some of the photos, especially the one on the right in the highlight yellowing. I've definitely seen that with some of my grandparents' photos. There's image ghosting, which definitely can occur with older photos. And then image fading is definitely one that you see in a lot of different photographic processes. And now we have the image surface sheen guide, and the categories are matte, semi-matte, glossy, high gloss, and then not pictured because it was too small to get everything on the page, differential gloss, iridescence, and silver mirroring or bronzing. And I have an example of silver mirroring or bronzing in the later slides. But these guides are definitely helpful in terms of identifying what your photo actually is. So, preserving and protecting family photos. Tips for handling heirloom photos. And this is from Denise May Levinick, who's known as the family curator. You should wear white cotton or nitrile gloves, or at least wash and dry your hands before handling photos or film. Avoid touching the surface of the photo, handle by the edges only. Try to avoid light and heat near photos and film, and that would be excess light and heat near photos and film. You should work on a flat, stable surface. A large table covered with a clean sheet or a large piece of clean paper is a really good option. And that was something we did when I attended the Roots Tech workshop on identifying and preserving photographs. They had clean sheets on the tables in there that we could view the photos on. And then avoid writing directly on the print that's on the face itself. Use a soft lead pencil only to jot down information on the reverse side. And usually you try and do that near the edge, either the top or the bottom edge. You don't do it directly in the middle of the picture, because sometimes the impression can seep through to the other side. So some key issues of preservation. There's temperature and relative humidity, light levels, air pollution and dirt, and handling. So temperature and relative humidity. Deterioration of most photographic materials doubles approximately with each 10 degrees increase in temperature. Ideal temperatures for rooms where people are going to be is between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's going to be in a storage area, it should roughly be no higher than 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Most vulnerable to heat are color photographs, nitrate film, or safety film from the early 20th century, the type known as acetate cellulose. Ideal relative humidity is between 30 and 50% without cycling more than plus or minus 5 degrees in a day. And you can see this is an example of it. The example on the right is one of a photo that was exposed to excess heat and light and humidity. Light levels. Light can cause permanent embrittlement, yellowing, and fading in prints and negatives. Direct sunlight is more damaging than indoor lighting sources. However, indoor lighting can still emit dangerous levels of UV light. Most color photographs fade rather quickly, while contemporary fiber-based black and white prints are essentially stable to light. And light levels should be in the range of 30 to 100 lux. Now, what's a lux? It's simply another method of measuring light. To give you an idea, interior rooms in a home are typically around 50 lux, while even on an overcast day, if you have photos by a window, an overcast day can be as much as 1,000 lux, and it increases exponentially from there. Full sunlight, I recall, was 100,000 lux. So you can see why that would lead to the photos fading if you have them displayed near a window. And this is the photos on the right have some examples of those that have faded due to light exposure. Air pollution and dirt. Air pollutants can cause photographs to fade, while particulate matter can abrade the surface of the image. Air entering a storage or exhibition area should be filtered and purified. Dust should be kept to a minimum, maintained with a regular cleaning schedule. Interior sources of harmful gases should be removed from the area where photographic materials are stored. And metal cabinets are preferred, as wood often generates harmful peroxides. And this photo on the right, you can see where some of the image has gotten discolored due to abrasion, especially on the little boy on the right. It's harder to make out the details of his outfit. And then there's handling. Oils and dirt from fingerprints can cause chemical damage like bleaching or silver mirroring, so it's important to have clean, dry hands while working with photographic materials, or better yet, wear gloves. Careless handling can cause physical damage, including abrasions or tears, so always support photographs with folders or mounts. Whenever possible, provide users with photocopies or a photographic duplication of the image. And when labeling a collection, use the reverse of the photograph along the edge. An ordinary lead pencil is best for handwritten labels. On coated surfaces, that's the ones that feel a little more plasticky, such as RC paper, use an archivally safe tool, such as a barrel Prismacolor pencil in non-photo blue. And I will be providing a copy of these slides as a handout. But this image on the right, not only can you see it's gotten dirty from handling, but this is also an example of the silvering or bronzing that can sometimes happen to older photos. Next, we have SAR is the Sons of the American Revolution. These came from the archivist that ran the workshop at Roots Tech. So the main goal in passive preservation is keeping the photos safe. You want to stabilize them as much as possible. If you're going to store them, it should be in a cool, dark, dry, internal location with no windows that sees limited traffic. Temperature and humidity around 50% relative humidity, and she actually recommends a 68-degree target zone for temperature. And the most stable place would be on the first floor. So the arrow is pointing to no attics and no basements. And I would also give the caveat, no barns or garage barns. We have a barn in the back, and some of our photos were kept on the second floor when we first moved in, and that was like, no, they shouldn't go there. So we got those in the house ASAP. So active preservation. The main goal in active preservation is to display or share the photos. So you should consider the housing to make sure that the photograph is as stable as possible. You should take care when handling them. You should do a conservation assessment to see what the condition of the original is. And keeping that end goal in sight at all times is the preservation of the photograph. It'll be a combination of efforts, and digitization is one of the ways that you can make them easier to share and better preserve the original. So digitization is preservation. Digitization is key in cases of condition issues or the need or desire to share electronically. There are two methods that she recommended. One is a scanner, and this could be your own or one at your local library's preservation lab, which if you're locally based, we have a preservation lab here at Central Library. The best permanent file format is TIFF images of 600 to 1200 DPI. And the best way to remember which one is for permanent archiving is that TIFF can stand for This Is For Forever. The best sharing file format, because it takes up less space and you could actually, TIFF images you probably can't really email to somebody because of the size of the file. But JPEG, also spelled JPEG, you can remember just photos to give. And those ones are more easily shared. Now, the difference between the two, the TIFF image does not degrade over time every time you open it. The JPEG files, they can slow, it's a long process for them to degrade, but they will degrade a little bit every time they're opened. So rehousing and storing, what should you do with these? Photographs are delicate and require careful consideration of various factors to ensure their longevity, including the materials used in their storage. One standard method for evaluating the safety of storage materials is the photographic activity test, or PAT. And you should see that on any materials you're looking to use to archive your photos. It's an internationally recognized standard developed to assess the potential for materials to cause damage to photographs over time. It identifies substances that may contribute to the deterioration of photographs, negatives, and slides. And photo safe is not a standardized term, and its meaning can vary based on interpretation. Photo safe often implies that the materials used are non-reactive or safe for long-term storage of photographs. However, the PAT is a standardized test method, meaning it is a more rigorous and scientific approach to determining the safety of storage and display materials for photographs. Buffered versus unbuffered. Buffered is good. It's an alkaline buffer. An alkaline buffer is added to some materials to neutralize the acid from items being preserved. This is especially good if you have newspaper clippings, for example. They tend to be the yellowing on newspaper print, and sometimes you'll see it with paperbacks, especially the ones that were printed in the 30s and 40s, where the paper's getting yellow and brittle. That's because they're highly acidic. So this is buffered materials are good for most documents and as an outer enclosure. Now, unbuffered, why would you use that? Any artifacts that contain animal proteins are best stored in unbuffered material. Blueprints, for example, should never encounter buffered material, and many archivists also prefer storing albumin prints, which are made with an egg white wash, and cyanotypes. And cyanotypes are ones that have a blue, originally have a blue tinge to them. You should store these in unbuffered material. And when in doubt, unbuffered is a safe choice for any object. So this is recommended by several of the archival companies. Now, since buffering agents don't migrate, a buffered box can be used if an unbuffered layer, such as unbuffered tissue or polyester film, surrounds the item. Just be sure to completely surround the item in unbuffered material so that it doesn't touch the buffered box. So rehousing and storing poly what? There are many choices out there in terms of clear archival storage materials for photographic documents. These ones are the safe ones. They're made of polyester, polypropylene, or polyethylene. And note that polyester sheets and envelopes may also be called mylar sheets or envelopes. The one that is not safe is PVC, polyvinyl chloride, nor should you use anything vinyl or laminate. That kind of creates an environment, it seals the photo in and can create an environment that is more harmful to the photo. So archival supplies. There are a few different places to buy, but the two of the ones that, as of this morning, are running sales on their items, on their archival items, are Gaylord Archival, and I let you know that Syracuse University uses Gaylord Archival partly because they're based in Syracuse. So, and we use them too. They're based in Syracuse, so it makes it easy to get their items. But they have, since I was in library school about 4 years ago when I took this class, they now have a section on their website. They used to be for bulk orders, and they now have a section on their website that's under family history and collectors. And you can see they have a lot of different options for storage of photographs and historic documents. And they have it in smaller quantities so that you don't have to buy 100 at a time, for example. The other one that was highlighted by the Sons of the American Revolution archivist was Light Impressions. And they have one of their claims is that they are the leader in interleaving sheets. And that is especially good if you have a photo album and you need that unbuffered material to line in between the pages of the album so that the photos don't stick together. So Light Impressions is another one that's recommended by archivists. With that, are there any questions or comments? And I will stop sharing so we can see everybody.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does anyone recommend anything to actually copy photos into digital?
Oh, yes. I should have highlighted that better. So there's the method of a flatbed scanner, but one that the SAR archivist recommended. She will actually use a good quality camera, and she will take pictures without using flash. She'll take a picture of the picture she wants to archive. And so that way she can archive the original, but then she has a copy that's not going to degrade as much. So it's like and it's a digital camera that she uses. So it creates the digital image, but then she'll also print them out so that she can have them on display.
Okay.
Yeah. Janine?
Two things. One, in the chat, I put two items actually. My great uncle, Alfred
Yes.
Selwood, was a photographer in Syracuse. I've never seen any of his work. In the unlikely event that somebody here has a copy of something done by Alfred Selwood, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, that's number one. Number two, so I saw a conservator from Danbury, Connecticut speak once, and she said they throw their gloves away every time they touch a photograph. Because if you take a photo with your white glove that's got bacteria on it and touch another photo, you are contaminating the next photo. Granted, most of us can't afford to do that. And she said, if you can't, you should just use hand sanitizer between each photo. But it's really easy to pass contamination from one photo to the next.
That's a good point. And I think that's why when the archivist at Roots Tech did this workshop, she said she got cheap cotton. I mean, one thing was there were 75 of us in that class, but she got just cheap white cotton gloves, and we used them during the workshop, but then we tossed them away. So, but that's a very good point. I would say go ahead and use the hand sanitizer in that case, but do make sure your hands are dry before touching the
Absolutely.
photo, because sometimes you'll see try to clean. I saw some places where they said clean a photo with rubbing alcohol. Especially if you don't know what the process was to use made, that the process used to make it, I would not use rubbing alcohol on a photo. I would use just a dry, clean cloth, soft, clean cloth to try and get some of the dust off. And
Yeah.
this day and age, with scanners, there's a lot that can be done in order to you would scan that original photograph, and then you can go in and remove the dust that's, the specks of dust that are on the image.
Mhm.
That'd be much safer.
Okay, and one more thought, which I may have bad information, but I remember hearing that a JPEG deteriorates when you resave it. In other words, you alter it,
Oh, okay.
whether it's you're cropping it, you're colorizing it, whatever it is you're doing, that's when it deteriorates, not upon opening or closing, but upon saving.
Okay,
I will,
because
yeah, I
yeah,
will check that out
I'd
for
heard
myself.
that's good to know, because that was new information to me about the JPEG, and I knew having worked at university institute where they had a publishing department, they preferred everything saved in TIFF format, and they told me it was because JPEGs will degrade, but of course they were like 6 years behind in publishing some of their manuscripts, so I suppose that could do it.
Yeah, and the TIFFs are incredibly large in terms of
Yeah,
storage space. And
yeah.
so I find there are TIFFs that I've saved that like I can't upload to Facebook or Ancestry or wherever. They're just too big.
Oh,
So then
yeah,
I have to reduce them. Cool.
yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
I think it makes sense to save the original copy and then make a copy of your JPEG and then work on it, edit it or whatever you're going to do, and then save that separately.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to mention, since I'm speaking here, if you don't mind, when copying photographs, what I like to do, I use a camera and I put the photo near a north light window, so you get a very less intense, more evenly distributed light, and it stays stable for a longer period of time. And the light's generally kinder to the way the photo looks, so that you don't have professional copying equipment or anything like that. It's an easier way, and natural light tends to look best, in my opinion, anyway. So that's my 2 cents about that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's good to know. Yeah, Molly?
Yeah, I was just going to also mention Archival Methods, which is another place that sells archival supplies. I'm glad to hear Gaylord is doing individual sales now, because
Yes.
sometimes their pricing was
Oh,
designed for, like you said, institutions, and I found their prices kind of high. So I ended up going to Archival Methods for certain things. And
okay.
I'll put the info in the chat.
Oh, okay, great.
And then the other thing, it's hard. I think it's hard for us to keep our houses at exactly the archival temperatures.
I know.
And I heard that if you have the stuff in a container, like let's say you get an archival box, you make large photos in it, and you put that in a closet, that it helps, even if you can't keep the temperatures exactly the way they should be, because
Right.
it's somewhat isolated. Closet with a door on your main floor where you live, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's actually where we've got our photos at our house now. It's a downstairs closet in the archival boxes, and they're up on a shelf
Yeah.
on the first floor. So, yeah. Okay.
Kate, I have a question and a comment.
Sure.
Light Impressions, is that in Rochester?
I believe they're located in Rochester. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of remember them.
Yeah.
And the question or the comment is, I often use, as Bill was mentioning, I photograph documents with JPEGs if it's a document I'm having trouble reading.
Oh,
And then I'm able to blow it up if it's handwritten, or if it's some kind of a document that I just can't make out. So
right. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Are there any services that can enhance a faded photo, right? Say from the 1900s. I have picture of the farm in Indiana, and a lot of it has faded, and it's on board, so it's like a yellow brown on the board. Are there any services that can enhance that or bring it out to?
There are photographers out there. I would be speaking of personal experience. So the one person I know of that I can name offhand is Marianne Miles. Let me put that in the chat. She's based here in she's actually based in Baldwinsville, and she's
I have some
spelling.
info on it too, Kate, if it's helpful.
Oh, good. Yes.
I had a family photo just exactly like you're describing. It was my Italian ancestors, the only group shot, and it was fading. I was terrified it was just going to disappear. And I took it to Industrial Color Labs in Fayetteville.
Oh,
And
okay.
they did a marvelous job. I mean, you can see the grass on the lawn where they're
Yeah.
posing. So that's another option in Syracuse. And I think they have two branches. There's one in Fayetteville, but I think there's one downtown also.
Yeah, there's a downtown one as well. Yes.
Great,
that's
thank
good.
you. I'm out in that area. It's perfect. And also for you people from Virginia, I was raised in Stanton.
Oh,
So hooray for Virginia.
yeah. All right.
Kate, there's also a lot of programs on like MyHeritage. I think maybe Ancestry's introduced something. Maybe Family Search has introduced something recently for cropping, for colorizing, for enhancing photos, for repairing photos, those types of things. I know MyHeritage has done that for the last 2-3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not a real big, I think it's interesting. I'm not really a big fan of, getting too carried away with it, because if it's a black and white photo, I want it to be black and white. I want it to
Right.
be original to the period. But a lot of people like to have the colorized photos. And I think also MyHeritage now also is animating photos, which to me is crazy and
Oh, I know.
spooky. So
Yeah.
you can have your grandfather tell his story about his boyhood.
Oh, there you go. Crazy.
It's,
Yeah.
to me, it's a little bit crazy, but I guess some people like that, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, I would be one of those crazy people. So when I did my mother's memorial video, I had a single photo of her as an usher. She ushered for 27 of her last 30 years. I could make her blow a kiss. I could make her smile. I could make her turn her head, whatever. It was little snatches of that really augmented the video, because what my mother had asked us to do was to play 6 songs, all Italian or Italian American, at her memorial service. And I knew my brother and my sister were not going to sit through 30 minutes of music. But this video where I could edit the music, make it smaller, whatever, and add a little bit of mom and a little bit of movement really helped. So if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to share the video. Okay, number 2, MyHeritage also will date photos. They will help you based on the clues that AI picks up in figuring out when that photo might have been from. They will enhance photos, which, like when you're trying to read that print, can be helpful sometimes to pull out some text. The colorization's uneven. Sometimes I think it's great and sometimes I think it's bizarre. But doing my 50th high school reunion soon and doing collages where I could take yearbook photos and colorize them, I'm just getting rave reviews from folks. So for what it's worth, I think animation can be good sometimes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I have a question.
Oh,
I've found myself, while I'm south in Florida at my brother-in-law's, going through and helping him organize some of his family history. And it turns out he has a lot of photos and a lot of papers that I've already contacted Dartmouth College about,
Mhm.
because he's related to someone that was the president of Dartmouth College for 30 years back in the 1800s. And
Okay.
there are handwritten original letters that this person wrote. And I probably am going to end up donating a lot of that to Dartmouth College. Somebody said something about if you find out the value, you can get a tax deduction. Does anybody know anything about how that works? I know that's a little off subject here, but I'm thinking it's going to involve a lot of photos as well as original letters.
That's a good question.
I donated some things to Indiana University from my father. And the first thing they wanted to know is what I had, because a lot of times they have that already in their archives. And but I would say if you've got original letters, those are priceless. And I did not ask. They sent me a donation form, or they sent me a donation form which I did not complete because I just gave it to them. But you might ask them, you know,
Right, yeah. Okay.
what
Nancy, you had a question?
Yes, Kate, can you tell us a little bit about the scanners that are available at the library? I remember seeing it one time at the Liverpool Library where you could scan a bunch of pictures, photographs. And was it a Kodak one, or what do they have now?
Well, here at Central Library, we've got a large flatbed Epson scanner that has attachments for, ours has an attachment so you can also scan slides. And then we've also got two computers that are dedicated to transferring, that you can use to transfer VHS to DVD or flash drive. Um, the video ones are in real time, so if it's a 2-hour video, you'd be here for 2 hours or so to get it transferred. But the other one in Onondaga County, Brewerton, the Brewerton branch has a preservation lab as well. And they've got, I believe they might have a larger flatbed scanner than we do. Ours is about 11 by 17, which is about the size of a sheet, like holding the newspaper. It's about roughly that size. So, and I have used we do have a book cradle scanner that does a larger format than that I've sort of used. It wasn't as successful as a dedicated photo imaging scanner, but I was able to use it to scan the image of a painting for a patron that came in.
Is there any charge for that? And do we need to make appointments for that?
Here at Central, we're pretty much first come, first serve because, I'll be honest, we haven't had the demand for it. It's available whenever the library is open. So for example, this Saturday when parking's free, we're open from 9 to 5. So that would be available then. Brewerton, I'm not sure. I know they have different hours, and of course their parking's always free. But those would be the two in the system that I know of.
No, I'm asking if those scanners have same special lights opposed to other scanners on the market.
Oh,
We were wondering, if a side question was, do those scanners that you have special lights in them other than the ones that are in our normal homes and regular market?
I know it's best used. It's dedicated for doing photographs. So, I'm not the technical minded type of person, to best, but I do know it does an excellent job. We've used it to scan some of our our older photos from the Post Standards newspaper morgue that we've put into some of the presentations.
And what about LED lighting in our homes? Is that bad for our photographs?
No, I would think that that would be better than, you know, I'd have to check that more, but I believe LED is safer. I believe. Let's see, LED or what type of bulb? So, but like, if it's, I would think if it was an older lamp that gives off a lot of heat, when you're sitting near it, that would be one that I wouldn't put a photograph near. You know, we've got an old globe light, you know, one of those pedestal globe lights, and that bulb gets pretty hot. So it's like we have a painting near there, that's fine, but we don't have photographs near it.
All right. Yeah, thank you. And then just the last question was, what about naming conventions for these pictures? Now we'll have the original, we'll save it. How do you keep it straight on which one's the original, which one? I mean, how do you name these things?
You could put on the back of your copy, you could put the date that you redid it. So it's like, you know, you'd have the original, however you labeled your original, and then just say reprint and then put the year. Or if you want to put the full date, you could put the date as well.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Oh, good.
You're off mute.
One other question, I noticed that you're recording this,
Yes.
and there's a transcript, a closed captioning transcript that is part of that. Have you been recording these all along? Can people access these?
Yes, I can make sure when I send out the handouts that I include the link to our YouTube channel. I will let you know I'm a little behind in getting these recordings out, because when we started adding the closed captioning, I've got to edit those by hand. I've got to go through by hand and correct what the closed captioning automatic thing doesn't catch. You know, there's certain words it doesn't always catch.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jean, you had a question?
Yeah, well, a comment too about memory stations. The Family Search Library and the Family Search Centers most all of them have the memory stations where you can scan your photos and everything.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, so it's another way to be able to do it. I treated myself to an Epson scanner with the slide, the Epson V600 or whatever it is, that scans slides and negatives, so I could do it at home because I can't get out. So,
oh yeah.
And so this has been very helpful because I'm just now starting to digitize all of my photos that are not already, that I haven't already done, and that. So, and another place to get, if you just want one or two pieces of archival boxes or what storage, and that is the Container Store. I don't know if, I know we out here, I think they're probably nationwide. But I live in California and we have a couple close to me, and that, but the Container Store, and you can go online with it too and see what they have.
Oh, good.
So it's another place for some smaller purchases and that.
Yeah.
Other than Gaylord, but I have ordered from Gaylord.
Okay. Thank you.
So this has been very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Jan, when I moved, I donated a bunch of things to the Genesee Country Museum for my family. And they wouldn't tell me the value, but they said, oh, you know, here is somebody we deal with all the time, and he would appraise your things, gives you an appraisal for them. So
Oh.
they gave me like a contact. So you might just want to contact the university and see if there's somebody that, will either do them for free or do it for a very small amount of money to appraise the items you're interested in donating.
Thank you.
That's great. All right. Are there any other questions or comments?
What's up next month, Kate?
Oh, next month, yes. Thank you, Scott. The next program will actually be on May 17th. I tried to have it for May 10th, but we're having Jan Rappaport from the Safe Haven Holocaust Refugee Shelter Museum in Oswego. She'll be speaking about the history of that and the people that lived there after World War II. That's in commemoration of the Holocaust Memorial Day for the U.S., which is actually May 6th. Then in May, I actually hadn't decided yet. I could take you through navigating what the databases that we have here for genealogy, including the unique databases that we have here. Or we could have it be an open brick wall discussion if you'd want. I'll let the group decide on that one.
I
If
think
anybody's
it's
got,
always a good idea to go over your resources. They're there to be
Okay.
used, and they should be.
Okay,
One woman's opinion.
one woman's opinion.
Are your databases available from outside of your library area?
Yes.
I
The
mean, I live
unique,
in California, but I do Onondaga County research and stuff, so.
yes, we do. We have 11 unique databases that deal with Onondaga County, and they are accessible outside of our library system. They're accessible to anyone.
Do we need a library card?
No,
Kate?
you don't need a library card for them.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
That would be quite interesting then.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
How do you find those databases? Are they on the website or?
They're through our local history and genealogy department page on the website. And they're listed as one of a kind databases. But yes, I would definitely, and that one would be, I think my calendar down. That would be the next genealogy group would be on May 24th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. So it sounds like that will be a good topic to have. So I will definitely go navigating the Onondaga County Public Library's genealogical databases then.
Mhm.
And what was the first date that you had that
It's
May?
May 17th.
Okay.
And those should be those should be live on the calendar by Monday, on the website's calendar by Monday. I'm putting them up today, but
Kate, if you have time, just a minute after we're all done, I just have a couple questions about what's here in Virginia and in this area that I can get into.
oh, okay. I'll do my best to answer the questions then. Yeah.
I
Thank-
do have the York County library card.
Yes.
Is that good in
Yes. That's very good. You can get into a lot of things with that card.
Have you used the Library of Virginia on their website?
I have.
If you're doing research in Virginia, I've used it quite a bit. In fact, I found very early land records there for Kentucky before it was a state and that. So it's really good. really good website. They have a lot on it. So if you're doing Virginia research, that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
And I'm putting this in the chat so everybody will have it. But you can always reach out to me at our local history department, and that is lhg@onlib.org. And that actually goes to me and my colleague as well, Dan Smith, who's the head of the department. We're always happy to help people with research. So, but yeah, I can stay on and we can talk. That's okay.
Okay. Are we all, I don't want to take away from anyone else. In here in the Williamsburg area and whatnot, is there any courses, get-togethers? I mean, I think I saw one at maybe it was Tab.
Since COVID, again, things have slowed down. There used to be some genealogy groups. There was bus group trip that would go up to the DAR museum, you know, maybe once a quarter. But I don't see any of that happening since COVID. And my research is all upstate New York. I don't do any local research here. Just I would join a group just for some collegiality.
Yeah.
And I just put in one that Jean actually turned me on to, conferencekeeper.org. They have they gather all genealogy conferences, meetings, that kind of thing. And they have an online calendar where you can go through and see who has virtual ones, who's in your area. And it's constantly being updated. I actually forgot to get today's session on, and somebody already had it up there for me. So it was like, oh good, it's up there. So, but that she'll send out a weekly digest email and list what new ones have been added. So I found a lot of different ones that way.
Well, that's how I found you. And I
Yeah.
found one in Illinois where I joined a society where my ancestors were from. But Tennessee has a really good speakers. So does the Florida State. And I go on Conference Keeper and then just register for the webinars, and that they're all on Zoom.
Yeah, if that helps.
And they're free. Most everything is free.
Yeah. Yeah, our favorite price. Yes.
Yeah, well, when you're on a limited budget, you know, it's a good
Well,
way
they
to get your genealogy education at a lower price.
Yeah. Exactly.
Kate, I have to click off, but I will email you, and if you have anything, you know, you can tell
I'll
me
do
for
some
the
checking
Williamsburg area.
in the Williamsburg area. I'll
Yeah.
definitely check for that for you.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Richmond
It's
does
nice seeing
a lot
everybody.
on
It's been a
Zoom.
while.
Okay.
Has things on Zoom too, Carol.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you, and we'll see you again next month.
Yep. See you next
Thank
month.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kate.
Yep. Take care.
You.
Bye.
Bye now.